Hey everybody, what I'm going to do today is talk to you about how to use a Hornady overall length gauge and a Hornady Headspace comparator kit as tools to be able to get the correct length for your overall length on your bullet to be able to reload for accuracy in your rifle, so you can set your bullet at the correct length so it will be hundredths of an inch away from the lands in your rifle, which in theory makes it more accurate. So first, what I'm going to do is talk about these two tools and what you get with each one of them. So this Hornady straight overall length gauge, it comes with this piece here that fits on your calipers, which I'll explain in a minute. It does not come with this piece here. This piece here, which I'll explain a little bit, allows you to measure your different caliber projectiles. So I have a 30 cal insert here and I have a 22 caliber insert. So you get this gauge and you get the piece that goes on your caliper. With the Headspace kit, the Hornady Headspace kit, comparator kit, you get, again, the exact same thing that comes in the overall length gauge to fit on your calipers, and then you get all of these Headspace, I don't even know what the name is for these things, bushings. They're bushings. So each one of these bushings is a different diameter, and when you throw a case on them, it will allow you to measure consistently between the modified case and an actual case you're going to reload with. That way you can measure from the data line of the brass to the ogive on the bullet, which I'll explain in a few minutes. So with this package here, you get all of what you see here, and then with the overall length gauge, you get the gauge itself and one of these, not this piece here. So if you're going to go buy this for whatever caliber you're going to be reloading for, you need to buy this here, you need to buy a modified case with whatever caliber that you're going to be reloading for, and you need to purchase the wish I knew the name of these. I guess there'd be a bullet comparator bushing. If you go on Midway or something, you'll be able to see. They sell them. They're like a couple bucks a piece. So what I'm going to do is get reset up here, and then explain how to use these tools to measure to actually measure your rifle and use the measurements. So I'll see you in a second. Okay, now that I'm reset up, what I'm going to do is show you how to get a measurement, your first measurement with your overall length gauge. So what I've done is I've screwed this modified case for the caliber that I'm going to be reloading for, which in this case it's going to be my AR-15. So this is a 223. So you screw this on here. Make sure it's pretty tight. This red piece here is aluminum. This gray piece here is plastic. Seems to work all right. I don't care for plastic, but whatever. You can see how the plastic slides up through the case, or the brass. So what you do is you take one of your bullets that you're going to be reloading with. You put it in. You see how it's larger. The neck is way larger than the caliber of the bullet, so it's expanded wide enough where you can move it with this plastic thing. Oops. So load that in there, and then I just have my upper off of my rifle here. So you throw that in your barrel, or in your receiver, and then the aluminum red piece of the gauge, the case is screwed onto it, so it's going to hit the inside of your barrel, and then obviously the bullet I had tucked back in the neck of the rifle, I have the bullet tucked back in the neck of the brass, and then I'm going to push it forward with this plastic piece. So that just stopped, and then I want to make sure the aluminum is pushed all the way forward. So once you have both of them pushed forward, you're basically putting the brass as far as it'll go forward up into the chamber, and then the bullet as far as it'll go up into the lands of your barrel. You take this set screw then, tighten this, which will secure the plastic piece here, pull it out. The bullet's probably going to, no, it wasn't stuck. So sometimes the bullet will get stuck in the lands inside of your barrel, and what you need to do is just take a cleaning rod, run it through the end, and pop it out. In this case, it didn't get stuck, but you can see that is how far the bullet or the projectile needs to come out of the case of my Hornady modified case. So that is exactly the size of the chamber of my rifle. So now what you do is get this out of the way. You take your calipers, and then remember the piece that comes with your overall length gauge and the bullet comparator bushing for 22 caliber. You screw that on there, or you insert that in there. Use the Allen wrench to tighten the set screw down, and then this set screw here goes right on your calipers, and make sure that is square on the arm of your calipers. So you run them all the way in, zero it, you run it out, you take your overall length gauge, throw it in there, and your bullet comparator bushing will, since this is for 22 caliber, your bullet is going to hit the ogive of the bullet, or the bushing is going to hit the ogive of the bullet, the projectile, so it won't go in any farther. And then your arm goes back on the end of the modified case, and then you can get a measurement here. So in this case, looks like 1.898. So once you have that measurement, then that's one piece of the puzzle that you'll need here to figure out your exact length that you want to make your overall length of your bullet, of your completed round. So the next thing you're going to need to use the Headspace comparators, which I'll show you how to do here in a second after I readjust the camera. Alright, here we go on the Headspace comparator kit. So to measure the next measurement you're going to need is you're going to need to measure from the end of the case to the datum line on the neck of the cartridge. So what we do here is the pieces that come in the Headspace comparator kit, one of them will be the correct size for your particular caliber that you're reloading. So you just have to go through and figure out which one it is. You can view the Hornady has all the specs and everything online, but these all come in the kit for common calibers. So what I've done is pick the one for 22 caliber. Just like the overall length gauge and the bullet comparator bushing, the Headspace bushing goes onto the piece that connects onto your caliper arm with a set screw. So just like before, we're going to take this and attach it to the arm of your caliper. You need to make sure it's square against there, or you're gonna have inaccuracies. Okay, set that. Run your arm up. Zero it out. Run your arm back. Take your case. In this case, it's the modified case, and it will. It should go up to the datum line on the neck of your case, which should be the same, just because of the way the angle of the neck of the brass is. And then you get a reading, or not a reading, but a measurement. So it's like 1.4575 inches. Okay, so now that you have these two numbers, what do you do with it? So I'm going to get reset up here again, and I've drawn a picture to explain this in detail, and I will go through it step by step as soon as I set back up. Alright guys, you're going to get to see my awesome artwork here. So what I've done is, I'll just use this as a pointer. What I've done is I have drawn two cases, completed rounds here on this piece of paper. The top drawing represents the Hornady modified case. So the modified case is the case that you purchase for what you're going to reload for. It's the one that has the screw in, or the threads in the bottom of it. Put this up here. This down here is the trimmed case. So the case that you have ready to go, that you're getting ready to reload, I typically do, as you've seen in my previous videos, about 100 at a time, and I trim them at the exact same length, every single one of them. And I sort them by brand, so Lake City 2015, and I try to get them and I make sure that they're all fired the exact same amount of times. So I think this one is twice fired. That'll keep these as consistent as possible. So I will set this here. You can see it's been deprimed and cleaned and ready to go. So I have 99 other one of those sitting in my garage ready to reload. So this is how I describe how I do it here, and hopefully it'll make sense. So the first measurement that I took with you is with the overall length gauge. So we measured from the end of the case all the way up to the datum line on the projectile. So the number that I just measured, the figure that I just had when I just measured this, that probably does not match what we have here, because I drew this up last night in preparation for tonight, me showing you guys this tonight. So I took time and care of these numbers and made sure these are good. I'm actually going to use these numbers, but don't use these numbers for your rifle. They could be your rifle is going to be different. So again, don't use these numbers for your rifle. You need to have this and measure your particular rifle. Every rifle is different. So the first measurement I took with you guys a few minutes ago is from the back of the modified case up to the ogive on the projectile, and I have 1.9715 inches. And you can see this is actual. So this is an actual measurement, and I'll explain that in a second. The next measurement that I took with you guys is with the Headspace bushing on. That measurement was, last night when I did it, was 1.4565. And you can see I marked it as actual. So if you know these two numbers, then the number between the amount of space between the datum line on the cartridge to the ogive on the projectile is going to be 0.515, and you can see that's calculated. So I subtracted, I took the difference of these two numbers, and that's what I got here. And you can see I marked it calculated, and then parentheses fixed for my rifle. What that means is this number is never going to change because my rifle, remember when I use this overall length gauge to ram this this case all the way up into my gun, and then push the bullet all the way up in the gun. Those two numbers equal, or those 2 points, the distance between those is the 0.515, and that will never change in my gun. Now, we have two different cases here. This one is from Hornady. It's modified, has the threads, whatever. That's different measurements on this than my Lake City brass that I've been using and I have all trimmed up, ready to go. So that's why we're doing both of these, because the brass is physically different. The measurements are physically different. Now down to the bottom, the Ready, Set, Reload trimmed case, which is that one. So I did the, I took this case with this Headspace bushing, and I am able to measure the distance between the datum line on the case and the end of the end of the case, and that was 1.4550. As you can see, it's a little bit different. Point up here on the modified Hornady case is 1.4565. So there's your difference between those two cases. Next, this I know is fixed for my rifle, the 0.515 from the datum line to the ogive. Since it's fixed for my rifle, I can assume that that is the same distance on this cartridge, on this with this brass and projectile. So I insert the 0.1515 for this distance. Now it's going back into, I guess, grade school a little bit with math and everything. It's pretty rough when you get old, but if you know those two numbers, then you can get the overall length of your of the cartridge that will fit to the maximum. Just like this number right here, if you add up the actual here and the fixed number here, you add those up, you get the length from the calculated length from the end of the brass all the way up to the ogive on the bullet. This number here, 1.970, is the measurement that you would get if the end of this piece of brass was threaded and you attached it on here and ran it up into my rifle, just like we did with this one, jammed it all up forward and measured it, took it out, and you would get this number in theory. So that's how you figure out not the overall length of the round itself, but the length of your trimmed case from the end to the ogive of the bullet. So once you have that information, when you throw the powder in your brass and you throw it in your press and you throw your projectile in there and you seat it, then you can set your die so it seats it way above where it's supposed to be, so it actually seats and it doesn't come out. You can take the round out of your press and then throw it on your caliper with your bullet comparator bushing, and then you can take a measurement. So imagine this has powder, a primer, and a projectile in there, and you were going to measure it. You throw you throw it right in here, just like I did earlier and showed you. And you would obviously, it would probably be long if you barely seated it, and then you would have to throw it back in your press, do it again, adjust your die, do it again. It'll seat the bullet a little bit more. You throw it back into your caliper, measure it. You keep doing that over and over again until you get 1.970. When you have that, that is the number that if you threw this round, live round, into your gun, it would fill up your whole chamber and your bullet would be right on your lands. You typically do not want to do that right off the bat. So you want to, depending on how you want to, depending on your rifle and the accuracy, you're going to have to test this, but you'll have to keep, what I'm going to do, what I typically do, is seat that bullet down in there and like 5/100ths of an inch, or, you know, it's probably a pretty good place to start, 5/100ths of an inch. So I would start at 1.9720 probably, and then I'd make some of those and then go out and shoot them, see how accurate they are. But one thing you need to make sure you do when you start playing with the bullet against the lands of your rifle is have a chronograph and make sure you check the feet per second and make sure you check for pressure. And you know, you don't want to overpressurize and blow your face up. So that is basically how you use these tools to measure for your rifle, measure for your particular rifle. So I am going to type up a little blog, throw it on my website. You can go back through. I know it might be a little bit complicated the very first time that you see this, but I'll throw a little blog on my website, and I may even take a picture of my awesome artwork and put on there so you can see it. And hopefully this video helps you out with your with accuracy when you're reloading. And I will hope to see you guys soon in a future video. Thank you.